I'm 90 years old, and I didn't fail much in life. Not because I was successful, but because I was too afraid to try. Most people hear that and think it sounds humble, like I'm being modest. But I'm not. I mean it exactly as I said it. I didn't fail because I made sure I never could. When people look at my life from the outside, they think it was safe, stable, predictable, controlled. And it was all of those things. But what they don't see, what no one ever sees, is what is missing from the picture. The empty spaces, the gaps where a life should have been. All the things I never did. All the chances I let pass by without reaching for them. All the risks I turned away from before they even had a chance to become something real. I spent most of my life protecting myself from failure. And I was very good at it. But somewhere in my 70s, it started to dawn on me that in protecting myself from failure, I had also protected myself from almost everything else. From growth. From discovery. From the kind of life that makes a person feel, at the end, that they actually lived. I am 90 years old now. And sitting here looking back across all of it, the thing that weighs on me most isn't the things I tried and lost. It is everything I never gave myself the chance to try at all. I wasn't born afraid, no one is. Children don't come into the world worrying about how they'll look if they fall down. They fall down constantly, and they get back up just as fast. Because no one has taught them yet that falling is something to be ashamed of. But somewhere along the way, that changes, for me. I think it started early. I grew up watching people get judged. A neighbor who tried to start a business and couldn't make it work. People talked about him for years. A boy at school who stood up to answer a question and got it wrong. The room laughed. Small things, but they lodged themselves deep inside me. And they taught me something that I carried without questioning it. For the rest of my life, that failure wasn't just disappointing. It was humiliating. It was something that marked you, something people remembered. Something that said, quietly but clearly, this person couldn't do it. And I told myself, even as a young boy, I don't want that. I don't want to be the person people talk about. I don't want to be the one who tried and came up short. So I became careful, very careful. I learned to read a situation before I entered it. I learned to judge whether I could succeed before I committed to anything. I only chose things I was already good at, only walked through doors I was certain I could open, only reached for what I knew I could hold. And slowly, so slowly, I didn't even notice it happening. My world started getting smaller, not because the world itself was shrinking, but because I was shrinking inside it, pulling back, staying close to what felt safe, letting possibility narrow down to only the things I was already certain of. I built my entire life around certainty, a job I understood completely, from the first year to the last, not because it was the job I dreamed of, but because it was the job I knew I could do without failing at, a routine that ran the same way every week, same habits, same rhythms, same outcomes, a path with no surprises, because I had designed it that way. And from the outside, it looked like stability. People would say, he is reliable. He is steady. He knows who he is, and I let them think that. Because what they couldn't see, what I could barely admit to myself, was that the stability wasn't coming from strength. It was coming from fear. I wasn't steady because I was grounded. I was steady because I had stopped moving. No major failures in my life. That is true, no big public mistakes. No dramatic setbacks that people could point to. But also, and this is what I didn't understand until it was far too late, no real growth either. No bold moves. No moments where I stretched past what I already knew. No times I surprised myself by becoming something I didn't know I could be. I wasn't failing, but I also wasn't becoming. I was just maintaining, keeping things as they were. Year after year, making sure nothing broke, but also making sure nothing changed. And there is a cost to that. A deep, slow, invisible cost. The cost is that life passes, and when it passes, you look back and realize you were watching it from a window instead of living inside it. There were opportunities. I remember them clearly. Even now at 90, they are vivid in a way that comfortable memories never are. When I was in my 30s, a friend came to me with an idea. He wanted to build something together. A small venture, something new. He believed in it. He believed in me. And I remember sitting across from him, feeling something bright and alive stir in my chest, and then feeling it go cold. What if it doesn't work? What if we put everything into it and it fails? What will people say? I told him I wasn't sure the timing was right. I told him I needed to think about it, and then I quietly let it go. He went on without me. It took years, but eventually it worked, and I watched from the sidelines. Steady, stable, safe, telling myself I had made the smart choice, but I hadn't made a smart choice. I had made a fearful one. There were other moments too. A chance to speak up, to say what I really thought, to advocate for something I believed in. And I stayed quiet because I was afraid of the reaction. A path I could have taken that would have led somewhere unknown. And I turned away from it because unknown meant uncontrolled. A creative thing I had always wanted to try, always thought someday. And someday kept getting pushed forward until there were no more somedays left. Each time the thought was the same. What if it doesn't work? And each time that was enough. Enough to keep me still. Enough to keep me safe. Enough to keep me exactly where I was. But here is what I understand now that I couldn't see then. Every time I asked, what if it doesn't work? I never once asked the other question, what if it does? I spent my life thinking that fear was protecting me, that by avoiding failure, I was avoiding damage, avoiding pain, avoiding the kind of loss that sets a person back. But here's what I now know, at 90, with enough distance to see it clearly. Fear doesn't just stop you from failing. Fear stops you from living. That is the cost I didn't understand. The one nobody warned me about. I thought I was making a sensible trade. I'll give up the highs, but I'll also avoid the lows. I'll keep things even. I'll stay safe. What I didn't realize was that this trade doesn't give you a flat, even life. It gives you a shrinking one. Because failure, real failure, the kind that comes from genuinely trying, is not the enemy of growth. It is growth. Every time you try something and it doesn't work, something changes inside you. You understand something you didn't before. You find a capacity you didn't know you had. You are forced to adapt, to problem solve, to become slightly more than what you were. Failure pushes you. Discomfort teaches. Setbacks forge character in a way that comfort simply cannot. And by spending my entire life avoiding all of that, I avoided becoming all the things I could have been. The person I was at 30 is not so different from the person I was at 60. Same fears, same limits, same internal boundaries. Because I never let anything break me open enough to change, I stayed the same. Year after year, decade after decade. And now at 90 I look at younger men in their 40s and 50s, who have tried things and lost, who have been knocked down and gotten back up, and I see something in them that I don't see in myself, a texture, a depth, a kind of quiet confidence that can only come from having faced hard things and survived them. I don't have that. Because I never let myself face anything hard enough to need surviving. Now I am 90 years old, and the strange thing, the thing that surprised me most about getting here, is that I don't regret the things I tried and failed at. Those are easy to accept. You tried. It didn't work. You learned something. You moved on. That kind of failure carries no shame. It carries only experience. What stays with me, what actually keeps me awake in those quiet hours between night and morning, is everything I never tried. The ideas I talked myself out of before they even had a chance. The risks I turned away from before they could become anything. The version of myself that I could have become, might have become, if I had been willing to step into the unknown and see what happened. I think about him sometimes, that other version, the one who said yes when I said no, the one who stepped forward when I stepped back, the one who tried and failed and tried again, and became something more through all of it. He is not a fantasy. He was always possible, but I was too afraid of what failure would feel like to let him exist, and that is what regret actually is. It isn't mourning the things that went wrong. It is mourning the things you never let begin. If you are listening to me right now, if some part of what I've said sounds familiar, I want you to hear this. Don't wait to feel ready. You will never feel ready. Don't wait until the fear disappears. It won't disappear. Fear doesn't leave. It just becomes less loud when you stop obeying it. Do it anyway. Try the thing. Take the risk. Put yourself out there, not because you are sure it will work, but because you are willing to find out. Because failure is not the end of the story. It is often the beginning of the best part. And one day, if you are lucky enough to reach 90 like me, you won't be sitting here afraid of the failures you had. You'll be grateful for every single one of them, because at least they meant you were truly living. The only failure I truly regret is all the living I chose not to do. Don't make my mistake.